Welcome back to our next video lesson, friends. So if you need a quick review, I'm going to scroll up here. Our product rule, remember, you add them, and then for there it is. For our power rule, you multiply them, the exponents. So now, for lesson 4.2, we are doing the dividing rule, and we are going to subtract them. We're going to subtract the exponents. So we are again going to be simplifying our expressions using maybe just one property and then going on to using multiple properties of exponents. So let's start with our first box here, the dividing rule. So what this is telling us is that when you have x to the a over x to the b, you want to subtract those exponents. You would have x to the a minus b. So again, first, like before, you want to start with my pen is not working. Try this again. There we go. So you want to start with the coefficients. So again, if there was a 1 here and a 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1. You divide the coefficients first. Next, you want to use the quotient rule to simplify the exponents. To do that, we subtract them. And that's the new rule that we're learning today. So here we have, in our first box, x to the 5th over x to the 3rd. So to do this, we would have x, right, because it would just be 1 over 1, which is 1. And then you would have to the 5 minus 3, and that's our dividing rule, which gives us x squared. And that's our answer. All right, the next one. K to the 8 minus 3 is k to the 5th. Right here we have x to the 3rd divided by x to the 3rd. So if we were to take this and go through our rules, we would have x to the 3 minus 3, which gives us x to the 0. Well, what is anything to the 0 power? 1. Any number to the 0 power is 1. So our answer for this is just 1. You might also realize that the top and the bottom are the same. So if you have 2 of the same number divided by each other, it would be 1. Let's go on to the next one. A to the 6th times b to the 4th divided by a to the 2nd times b to the 3rd. So I know these look kind of scary. You know, you have exponents and you're dividing them, but just go through the rules. Look at them. Go step by step. So we're going to start with our first letter A, and we're going to do 6 minus 2. Remember, you always take that top number minus that bottom number. And then we'd have b to the 4 minus 3, which makes our final answer a to the 4th, b, and you could write to the 1st or just leave it as b. All right, this next one has 3 variables in it and coefficients that we need to divide. So we have 6 and 2. So we first need to do 6 divided by 2. So I'm just going to write that here. I'm sure you could do that in your head, but I'm just going to write it there so we know our steps, know what we're doing. First we have those coefficients. And then we have x to the 4th minus 3, right? Because we have the 4 up here and then that 3. All right, and then we have y's, right? Y to the 5th and y to the 5th. Y to the 5 minus 5. Again, after some practice, I'm sure you could do some of these in your head, but it's important to write out these steps. so we don't miss anything. And then we have z, and we have 10, and we have that invisible 1 there. Z to the 10 minus 1. Don't forget about those invisible ones. Those can be easy to forget. All right, so what is 6 divided by 2? 3. So we have 3 times x times y to the 0 times z to the 9th. And what do we say above anything to the 0 is? 1. So we would have 3 times x times z to the 9th. All right, so the next one is just like the one we just did, so I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. See if you can zip through this one, and then watch the video and see if you get the same answer. Did you get 2 times a to the 7 times b? Hopefully. Remember, when we do these step by step, we're still multiplying each of these things. We're just writing them separately so we don't get confused if we put it all together. All right. It says to simplify the monomials completely and make sure you do one step at a time. So here's where we're getting into simplifying an expression using multiple properties of exponents. So now we're going to combine all of those that we've learned. The product one, the dividing, the power, and we're going to try to do these harder problems. So let's go through this first one. In parentheses, we have 3 times x to the 5th, and then all of that to the 2nd power, and then that divided by 27 times x cubed, x to the 3rd. So let's just start by looking at the top. So we're just going to look at this top part here, and we're just going to focus on that part first, okay? So let's use our rules, right? If you need to look back up at your notes, remember our power rule, we multiply. So we're going to use that here, and we're going to have 3 to the 1 times 2 times x to the 5 times 2. Good, now let's go on to the bottom. So now let's just look at the bottom part. There's nothing to do here, so I'm just going to write it out. And now let's go on to our next step and simplify more. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify that multiplication up there and get 3 squared times x to the 10th over 27x to the 3rd. Now we use our dividing rule that we just learned about. So 9 divided by 27, and then we're going to multiply that by x to the 10 minus 3 to get our final answer of 1/3 times x to the 7th. Make sure you do 9 divided by 27 and not 27 divided by 9. So you get a fraction as your answer for here. 1/3 times x to the 7th. All right, let's try this next one. Again, one step at a time. So I'm just going to focus on the top right now. I'm going to use my power rule. 2 to the 3rd, a to the 2 times 3, b to the 4 times 3. And there's nothing to simplify on the bottom, so I'm just going to rewrite it. And then I'm going to simplify the top further. 2 to the 3rd is 8 times a to the 6th times b to the 12th. All over, again, just rewriting this, 4 times a to the 3rd times b to the 7th. Now, let's use our dividing rule. So you would have 8 divided by 4 times a to the 6 minus 3 times b to the 12 minus 7 to get for our final answer 2a cubed times b to the 5th. And that's our final answer. Okay, so we have 4 more to go through together. And they are going to get longer and harder here. But again, if you take it step by step, I promise it'll be a lot easier. So let's look at our first one here. Just focus on the top. So there's no power rule here, right? We're not taking anything to a power. We're not taking anything in parentheses to another power. We're just multiplying these. So let's just multiply them. So we would have 9 times 4. Those are our coefficients. Remember, you start with those. Then you would have x to the 5 plus 1. Remember, this is our product rule now. We're multiplying them. And then you'd have y to the 6 plus 1. And that's our top. Our bottom is 6x squared y to the 4th. All right, I'm going to simplify this down further now. What is 9 times 4? 36. X to the 6th and y to the 7th. All over 6x squared times y to the 4th. All right, so now we have 36 divided by 6. We're going to use our dividing rule. X to the 6 minus 2 and y to the 7 minus 4. Get out of my box a little bit there. So what is 36 divided by 6? 6. What is 6 minus 2? 4. And what is 7 minus 4? 3. And that is our final answer. All right, challenge yourself a little bit. Pause the video and try this next one. I know you can do it. All right, I'm gonna walk you through it. Hopefully you tried it on your own. Just focus on the top first. Remember your rules. So we have 10 squared times a squared times b squared. Remember, those all have an invisible 1, so it'll be 1 times 2. And we're going to multiply that. And there's nothing, this doesn't have anything to the power up here, so we're just going to write that again. All over 4a to the 5th times b. All right, now we can do some combining here, right? If you look back at your notes here, we have the product rule here, right? We need to add those exponents, or we can. So for example, we have these a's, right? And then we have the b's that we can combine. And then of course we're going to multiply our coefficients. So we would have 10 squared, right, which is 100, times 2, and those are our coefficients. And then we would have a to the 2 plus 4 times b to the 2 plus 3 all over 4a to the 5th times b. All right, let's simplify this down. What did we get? 100 times 2, 200, times a to the 6th times b to the 5th, all over 4a to the 5th times b. Now we need to use our dividing rule. So we have these a's here. We have, these b's here. And then of course our numbers that we can divide. So 200 divided by 4 is 50. And then we would have a to the 6 minus 5 and b to the 5 minus 1. So we'd get 50a times b to the 4th. And that's our answer for that one. You're doing great. 2 more. All right, this next one probably looks pretty hard. It's probably one of the biggest ones we've done. So let's start by just looking at the top of our fraction. So we're going to just look at this part for now. And let's just focus on simplifying that. So we have negative 6 squared. And then we have x to the 4 times 2. Y to the 6 times 2. And now we've done the top. Now let's go on to the bottom. Let's look at just the bottom of our fraction here. So we have negative 3 squared. X to the 3 times 2. And y to the 5 times 2. And then to the side here, I'm just going to bring this down and write 7x squared, y squared. Okay, let's focus on just our fraction now. We'll worry about that to the right later. Let's just focus on our fraction and simplifying it. So let's simplify the top part, negative 6 squared. Remember, that's going to be positive 36. And then x to the 8th, y to the 12th. Negative 3 squared, positive 9, times x to the 6th, times y to the 10th. And once again, I'm just going to bring this down. All right, let's simplify our fraction still. So what is 36 divided by 9? 4. And then remember, we're going to use our rule, our dividing rule. So we'd have x to the 8 minus 6 and y to the 12 minus 10. And again, just bringing down that other part until we're ready to use it. So then we have 4x squared y squared times 7x squared y squared. Now we can combine these, right? And what are we going to do with the exponents? We're going to use the product rule and we're going to add them. So we would have 4x to the 4th. Oh, I forgot the 7 there, sorry. 4 times 7, which is 28. And then we'd have x to the 4th times y to the 4th. And that is our final answer there. One more left. See if you can do it on your own. I know you can. So go ahead and try this one. Pause the video and then come back. All right, so this one has a fraction, right? And then we're taking that to the second power. So we need to take this little 2 here, right? And it needs to apply to the top and the bottom. So we would have 4 squared and then x to the 7 times 2, but we also have to apply that to the bottom one. So we'd have 6 squared times x to the 1 times 2, or just x squared. Right, and this is our fraction part now, times 27x to the 4th. All right, let's simplify. What's 4 squared? 16 times x to the 14th. What's 6 squared? 36 x squared. Continue that down. What is 16 divided by 36? It's going to remain a fraction. We're just going to simplify the fraction down to 4/9. So we're going to divide both of them by 4. Simplify that fraction down. Then we have 14 minus 2, x to the 14 minus 2. That is our dividing rule there. And bring down the 27, x to the 4th, and then we have 4/9 times x to the 12th times that 27, x to the 4th. And then what are we going to do next? Can we combine anything? Yes, we can multiply 4/9 and 27. And we can also combine this x to the 12th with the x to the 4th by doing what to the exponents? Adding them. So then we would get 12 times x to the 16th, because we did 12 plus 4. And that's our final answer. Okay, now we have 4 for you to try on your own. So it starts off with just the dividing rule, and it gets a little bit harder as it goes on. Try these 4, and we will go over them together in class.